No, as I was saying a little earlier on, there'll be a lot of media organisations, radio stations in particular, will be in very sombre mood this morning due to the tragic passing of Tony Fenton. And it's a very small business. We all know each other, and those of us who've been around a long time know each other reasonably well. I would have known Tony over 25 years. I wouldn't consider myself to be a friend, but I certainly would have known him and would have liked him enormously, because it would be impossible to know Tony and not like him enormously. He was literally Mr. Sunshine. However, to my right is a man who grew up with him and went to school with him. Yeah,
and like we were pals up until the late 80s, early 90s, and then as you go older and go down different career paths, you go down different ways. But he always had that enthusiasm, and behind the enthusiasm was a tremendous energy. And there was an entrepreneurial side to him as well. Like, he was no slow coach when it came to business.
He was he was a grafter, in the true Dublin sense of that word.
So. Yeah. And you see, he loved what he was doing so much that there was no graft involved. Yeah. I remember a time he was out on the road selling for his uncle. His uncle had a very famous pet store, Whacker's Pet Store in Dublin. Most Dubliners know it.
And on the north side?
Yeah, and he was selling tropical fish and did very well at that also. So like anything he turned his hand to. And then he'd be gone. He'd be gone for 3 months. Where's Fenton? Oh, he took a DJing gig in Norway. Or Sweden. Oh, he's gone to Ibiza for the summer. It's like, so he was always doing something. And when he finally broke through, he used to go in and do a round table quiz on Capital Radio, which is a pirate station on the Quays above a very well-known record store, a second-hand record store. And he used to do that, and he progressed from that to being the guest to being the presenter. And then he turned up in AOD, and that's where he really started going. That was the blue paper lit, and the rocket started. And from there he went to Big D, which was doing really well, and then eventually to RTE. Sunshine, RTE, and Today FM. And I think anybody grown up during the You're a Winner, the hotline, will remember him with fondness. Yeah. Because he took to that.
I was in, I joined RTE in 77, and then a year and a half later 2FM got going, so I was in on the first wave.
Yeah.
Then the next wave in was Ian,
and
Barry Lang, and Barry, of course, would be one of Tony's best friends, literally all his life, lifelong pals. Ian, Tony and Barry, they were the new whiz kids.
Yeah.
They were the pop kids, and they did have an energy and a youthfulness about them. But I remember having talking to Tony, but he was kind of old school in a lot of ways. He came from the kind of Tony Blackburn, Larry Gogan school, and he would have idolised Larry, and his idea was, I want to be a DJ. That's what I want to be. Yeah. And I love being a DJ, and I never forget how lucky I am to be doing what I want to do, what I love doing.
Never wanted to be a shock jock or any of that type of thing?
He would have considered that bad form, actually.
Yeah.
You'd never,
just play the music, make people happy.
Never vulgar,
no,
never controversial, because he didn't see that as being his job.
He loved Luxembourg, and Benny Brown and Rob Jones were his two heroes on Luxembourg. He would never stop talking. The point he'd drive you mad. Yeah. But what he was doing, because he was smart,
Radio Luxembourg, by the way, because...
Oh, right, the 208 medium wave for people of a certain vintage. But what he was doing was, we were listening to it, but he was listening to the craft.
Yeah.
And he was listening to how the disc jockeys were running jingles and how tight the music was and how they'd segue to the next song. While we were thinking about, isn't that great, I have a song and then I could talk for 3 minutes about it. He was already ahead of the posse.
There's a kind of an archetypal template for DJ, and Larry Gogan is unquestionably... the master. He is the king of it in this country, and it's always upbeat, always not falsely so, but genuinely enthused about what you're doing and really loving what you do. And Tony came from that school, and I would imagine that the idea that Tony would end up working in the same station on the same team as Larry Gogan, I'd say that was probably one of the happiest days of his life.
No doubt. I've no doubt whatsoever.
Lots of lovely texts coming in. A lovely man with an easy listening voice, and loved his choice of tunes. He would be a great loss. That comes in from Jean.
There's an expression that comes to mind straight away when you think of Tony Fenton, or Fentoni as we used to call him.
Tony Fentoni.
I'm going to play some tasty tunes, and then we'll go for a few scoopies afterwards.
Oh yeah, he loved to party. Oh my God, he loved to have fun. I have to say, I've been seeing Tony a long time. The last time I saw him was here. He was up doing an interview, I think, with Marvin Gaye anniversary, and he just loved a good time. But it wasn't the sort of a good time that you'd be going, look at him, he's Party Joe Animal. He just liked life.
He loved his life, and he never forgot how lucky he was to have the life he was, and he was very grateful for that, and that obviously transmitted to the audience, and they loved him in return. I have to say, I mean, obviously he and his family have had an awful couple of years, but I can't help thinking that he's up there somewhere going, thanks, thanks guys.
Exactly.
And delighted to see that all of the enthusiasm and love that he poured out through the microphone is now coming back to him.
Yeah, he rang me one day and he said, listen, I have this gig in Cavan that I won't be able to do tonight. Would you do it? And I was thinking, it's a bit short notice, Tony. And then he said the money, and the money was phenomenal. The money was absolutely, I nearly had to sit down. I was saying, you know, how are you getting this? And this is before his 2FM days. And I said, well, why aren't you doing it? I'm not driving up there in this weather. I went. It was
well,
good.
to his family particularly, to all those close to him and to his friends, and to all those who were touched by him in any way during the course of his professional career, those of you who are feeling a little sad and sorry this morning, we extend our deepest condolences. We'll be joined a little later by two long-term colleagues and friends, Dave Fanning and Matt Cooper, and we are also hoping that we'll have a phone call with somebody who I know he would have been honoured to have speak on his behalf. So that's coming up at 8:15.